Welcome to SikhCast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
Hello, Guru Fateh. Welcome to the SikhCast. My name is Manpreet Singh. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. Today, I have with me, for the first time, Kulvir Singh. Kulvir Singh, welcome to the podcast. Guru Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So, Kulvir, I know you a little bit now, but I don't think the audience knows you as well. So, please, before we get into our theme today of the podcast, give a little intro about yourself, your role at SikhRI, and how you got into SikhRI.
Yeah, thanks, Manpreet. Thanks for having me on the podcast. So I grew up in the Western Canada, in Calgary, Alberta. Parents moved here in the 70s, and I'm a kind of product of that generation, 80s and 90s child, and moved out to Toronto about 20 years ago. And as my day job was a management consultant, a business guy. And when I moved out to Toronto, very quickly got involved in the Sikh community out here. And one of the ways I did that was getting involved in the retreat scene, which was very big in the 2000s, early 2000s. And we started the Toronto Sikh Retreat here with one of SikhRI's board members, Inderpreet Singh. And as we started organizing those, we got different folks coming in to present. And that's when Harinder Singh and Gurpreet Kaur came to do a session with us. And of course, we immediately fell in love with them and the content and everything they were doing. They were just getting SikhRI up and running. This was early days, about 15 years ago. And we started helping out, helping them organize events in the GTA area, different sessions we would do, different presenters coming in. And over time, I became a volunteer, not just helping organize events, but also as I grew deeper into Sikhi and started taking my day job, which is a lot of workshop facilitation and presenting, started bringing that into the SikhRI world. I became a facilitator for different events, different sessions, and also started becoming more involved in the governance. So up until a few years back, I started my two big roles. I became on the board of directors of SikhRI, and then I also was one of the main facilitators at the Civic camp that happened at the retreat happened every year. And then with my job, wherever I traveled, Harinder Singh had a global network, and so wherever he found out I was going, somehow I would have a SikhRI workshop of some sort organized when I was there. That happened in Singapore, it happened in other parts of the world. And so I've been involved with SikhRI for a number of years now. And this year, as SikhRI's gone through some transitions in its leadership team, and the board really wanted not to have to go outside for an executive director in this time period, given everything going on. They asked if somebody from the board would step into the role, and volunteered for the role. I put my hand in and have stepped in as a volunteer executive director for the organization for 2020. So I've gotten to go on the other side of things now. So I've been a consumer, a volunteer, a facilitator, but now actually as a member of the team now, helping plan and execute all of the events and all of the great programming that SikhRI is doing, and helping navigate them through this this world change that we're going in with COVID-19, and making sure that SikhRI is actually really well suited for what the Sikh Panth is going to need going forward.
Great. I wanted to talk to you about a month ago, and you were in Punjab, and we were dealing with this COVID situation that was happening. And now you live in the greater Toronto area now. So it's good to get your perspective on how Punjabis, because there's a lot that live in GTA, and even the Punjabis in Punjab, how they were dealing with COVID. So tell me some about that experience.
Yeah, so I'm in Brampton, which I think in many parts of the world is probably more famous than Toronto now because of the big Punjabi population that's here. I think so as you said, when we connected a couple months back, I was in Punjab. I had gone down with my family in early March to visit. My in-laws were there, and my father-in-law fallen a bit ill, so we wanted to get him kind of back into good health, so he could travel home to Canada. And while we were there, the lockdown, COVID-19 was just was emerging, as Punjabi coronavirus, as Punjabis call it, was getting something at the periphery and became more and more central. And with the lockdown that the Indian state put into place on March 22nd, it really came home to us. So before that, we were zipping around Punjab, having a great, as they say, NRI time. We had our driver driving around different gurdwaras, different villages, different parts of Punjab, just shopping, eating, meeting people, and just having a real blast. And COVID-19 was a real something that was happening outside of India or was happening outside of Punjab. And there was a bit of bravado, I would say, early March, kind of this, "Sanu kuch nahi hunda, assi Punjabi, all right, like we're tough guys, and I don't think there was an appreciation like there was for any of us around how serious this was and how serious it was going to get in terms of a public health issue. And when the lockdown happened in March 22nd, we were actually getting ready to come back. Our flights were on the 28th, and those obviously got canceled. And then we didn't know what was going to happen. And so there was a period there where we were under the curfew in my wife's village in close to Ludhiana. I think 18, 20 days we spent in my in-laws' house in the village and trying to figure out a way home. And so day to day, we were quite comfortable, and it was really, it was a way peaceful just to see how village life had settled down and Punjab had really slowed down. But we kind of had this base level anxiety of trying to get out of Punjab. And eventually we did. We got government flights, the Canadian government repatriation flights that were taking place. We were able to make our way back on those. And we came home to Canada. And the whole time when we were trying to get out of Punjab and trying to get from Punjab to Delhi and navigating all the police checkpoints and stuff, we were just like, oh, we'll get to Canada and then we'll figure out what's going on in Canada. Not realizing coming to Canada would be like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, because the Canada we left behind had totally changed into COVID Canada, in which everything was shut down, shelter in place, lockdown. And so we came home to realize that everything had changed, how our kids were going to go to school, how our jobs were going to take place, and even how we were going to get groceries. All of a sudden, man, we got to start planning our meals 2 weeks in advance, because we got to order groceries, got to pick them up, and got all that stuff there. And I think by the time we got here, I think the Punjabis here in Canada have responded very well. Two things have happened. I think they've been compliant with the rules. So, you had some early days of people not taking seriously, maybe getting together or gathering. Some of the students were doing that and stuff. But I think very quickly, when people realized that this was serious and that social distancing was the only way we were going to keep people alive, I think Punjabi Sikhs jumped on board. And then the second thing we do is during moments of crisis, we open up our langars. When we don't know what else to do, we feed, we serve. And I think just like you're seeing in every Sikh community in the world, where they have the means, the gurdwaras are becoming drive-through langars of some sort, where they're providing either groceries or meals to families in need. And the gurdwaras in Canada have done the same. And they've also been conversations early days when we thought we might have Italy-like crisis situation where the hospitals were going to be overwhelmed, things like that, where, the gurdwaras were in talks with the local healthcare units of saying, hey, we have these huge divan halls and langar halls that we can convert into makeshift anything if you need them. Our buildings are yours. You decide if you need them. And thankfully, it hasn't come to that. But I think the spirit of Sikhs has certainly been there. And my other work in Seva Food Bank, and you see the Seva Food Banks or the Khalsa Aids of the world really stepping up as well on the humanitarian side. So I think it's been like anything, it's the best of times and the worst of times, right? We're going through a real challenging period, but you're seeing amongst all the tough things happening in the world, you're really seeing some inspiring things happening. And I think the Sikhs and Punjabis have kind of been right in the center of it.
Yeah, what's fascinating to me is how the local Sangat is dealing with it. And you mentioned people opening up langars, and we're doing drive-through langars and just helping feed people that, can't get a meal. So, a couple of things come to my mind, and I'm always thinking like, all right, so Gurdwara is going forward now. So even before I say that, like, where's the money coming from? A lot of money was coming in when people go and Mata Day and, just give donations on the side. So how are Gurdwaras, you think, or maybe you might know, are going to handle the money flow, the cash flow situation? And then also going forward, When there's gurprubs here, people can't get a seat to sit.
Yep.
And so is it going to be that crowded, or is everyone going to wear masks during langar, masks at Matadik time? Like, what's going to happen? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think, I can only speak personally. It's going to be a long time before I'm comfortable in a big audience again, right? And so I think Gurdwaras are going to have to change like all the other institutions. And, right now they're in crisis time. And, the Gurdwaras that were the best managed had the least amount of debts, the most amount of kind of assets on hand, liquidity, like businesses, not for profits. Gurdwaras are not for profits. And those that were well managed are probably going to are in a position to do the most because they have the most at their disposal. But I think as things fall, one of the organizations in the UK I know put out a memo to all the Gurdwaras there to get things sorted out internally in terms of their own finances, lines of credit, talking to their banks about their mortgage payments, and then accessing whatever federal programs were in place for funding because the Goleks aren't going to fill up anytime soon, right? Who knows, first of all, when Gurdwaras are going to be allowed to open up, and every country and every region, every state is going to be different. But when they do open up, what's going to be I think the flow will be, people will be able to go and in a Divan hall, you can have good social distancing because when it's not crowded, you can space out and you can do all that. But when you have big tahars and you have big gurpurbs and Vaisakhi and stuff, it's, and those moments that we love, Vaisakhi, the New Year's programs where we're packed in there and stuff, and we're really happy to go. Those are all going to have to be rethought in the short term. But I would say, Gurdwaras, we're going to have to look at how we fund them, and they're going to have to become a bit more transparent, I think, around where the money's going, how the money needs to be used. And when I think all of us, the Sikhs, we're not going to let any Gurdwara go under. But I think it's going to have to, on the plus side, these might trigger some transparency and accountability around funding around each of the Gurdwaras of saying, we'll be happy to support you. Just let us know how the money's being spent, where the money is coming from, where it's going. So I think that's there. The other role of Gurdwaras, which is more importantly, is their centers of learning and centers of connecting with the Guru. It's a place where the Guru Granth Sahib physically resides, and so those that don't have Guru Granth Sahib in their home, it's a place they can access the Guru, but it's also the place where Sangat happens, and that's a critical pillar of Sikh practice, and finding those who are also on the path and being inspired by them and inspiring them and serving them is a critical piece of ours. So in the absence of being able to do that in person, how do we find virtual Sangats? How do we find spaces of our own where we leverage the tools at our disposal? This podcast we're doing, or the Zoom meetings we're on for work. How does that get leveraged in this world where I think as our physical needs are being taken care of in the West here, right? Thankfully, I think most of us are able to get enough to eat and have shelter over our heads. If you go up Maslow's needs hierarchy very quickly, our other needs are going to be coming to the forefront, and the need for purpose, the need for acceptance, the need for belonging, the need to be part of something bigger than yourself. I need to try to put reason or understanding around what's going on in this crazy, unreasonable world. There's answers there or at least direction and guidance there that our Guru can provide, and SikhRI can provide, and Sangat can be a space for that if we reimagine what that looks like. So I think that's the real challenge, maybe not just for the Gurdwaras, because the Gurdwaras will do what the Gurdwaras do, and we can help them along. But I think the challenge for us, organizations like SikhRI, is how do we create those places for connection, reflection, introspection with the Guru and with other Sikhs, so that we're there to give people what they need. The Khalsa Aids of the world, the food banks of the world are doing a great job of taking care of people's physical needs, but that's only one that's only one part of the person, right? So how do we, I think the question for us is, what else do we do, and how else do we fulfill those much larger aspirations and needs that people have?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I know people in my life, probably including my parents, that, I know this is sad, but they usually go to Gurdwara religiously every Sunday still.
Sure.
And they think if they don't do that, something is wrong. Something is wrong probably in their spirit, in their spirituality and stuff. So my parents aren't that sophisticated, even if I even set it up for them to do Zoom, meetings and divans and talk about shabads and things like that. So how are you, or how is your community and maybe your local Gurdwara, helping people stay spiritually connected while there is no Gurdwara divans happening?
Yeah, I think all we can do is provide people opportunities and doors to walk through, tools to connect with the Guru. Right, the connection of a Sikh with the Guru is up to the Guru's kirpa and the udam of the Sikh. And I think while we all long for physical darshan of the Guru and being in the Sangat of visiting the Gurdwara, and we grew up in a tradition of going to the Gurdwara every Sunday, and our kids, our family now, two young boys, going to Gurdwara every Sunday is important to us because that's where their Gurmat school is, and we get to meet, our close family, friends, and all those folks that we really enjoy spending time with. And our Gurdwara school has really developed a nice sangat, a nice camaraderie, where the moms get together, the dads have a good bonding, and we learn as well as the kids do. So in the absence of just being able to go to the divans and stuff, I think this is where we're lucky that technology's played in. Just about every Gurdwara in the world is streaming something. Most Punjabis have an IPTV box at home, so my parents are getting their fix of Kirtan from Darbar Sahib or other Gurdwaras, and I think that is happening. And I think that the equivalent of that very passive Gurdwara experience that most of us have. We go and we sit in the divan, and things are being sung at us or told to us, and we sit there and we listen. We try to internalize it, we reflect on it, and then we kind of take away what we can out of it. That experience is easy to find. The piece that's always been hard is connecting with the Guru. And how do you bring the Guru's word and message into your life? And that's where, Sikhs, for us, it's never been about going to a physical space, right? Where other traditions talk about pilgrimages and tirats. For us, the ultimate tirat is within, right? Tirat navan jao, tirat naam hai, right? Why I don't need to go bathe in different places, where I can go within, bathe within naam, and over again, the physical space is not as important as what's the intention and what you're doing. And so I would say in this time and age, how do we create virtual sangat? And this is where, for our parents' generations, the online learning might be the best way to do it. The online, they're streaming different, Gurdwara programs. I know my mom spends a lot of time with her headphones on, and she's watching a lot of kathas and a lot of kirtan and going through things like that. There's a lot of events on Facebook Live. I know every night there's some Simran programs and Kirtan programs and stuff. So my mom is very into that, and I have friends who we do that too. We with our kids now, as we try to build more. COVID-19 has allowed us to put a lot more routine in place at home actually than before we had, and with our Sikhi practice, and maybe you've gotten a little bit more casual. We've become quite. We've been able to get quite. Persistent in it and doing what we do with the kids. So I'll say, we can go more into this, but I think there's a real opportunity now that had this happened 15, 20 years ago, it would have been really tough. It would have been like, I got to find a book on Sikhi because that's the only place I can find, or let me get a CD from the store and I can try to listen to it. But now with ubiquitous internet access and so many streaming services, web services, webinars, events going on, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Now it's a question of what do I do with it? How do I find it? We can talk about that in a second. But I think there's a real chance here of, as we go through this COVID-19 experience where, yes, we're all being very physically busy and there's always urgent things to take care of. How do we come out of this stronger? How do we actually say that I came out of COVID-19 and this lockdown and I'm much more spiritually connected to my Guru? I am, our family unit has actually become the unit of Sangat in my life. Whereas before, maybe I never thought of my family as my Sangat, right? Family is my family, and then Sangat was a place I went to and I got my Sangat. Well, right now, my Sangat is my two kids, my wife, and my parents who live in the house with me. That's my physical Sangat now. And so how do I cultivate things there? That's a question. And how do I maybe supplement that with things I find online?
Yeah, so let's get personal. How are you doing it? Like, give an example, give the listeners some examples, and maybe they could take some cues off that and do their own thing at home.
Yeah, so I've been, like everybody, gone through ups and downs with my own productivity, with all my own attention span, my own motivation, and desire to get really involved and do things. I saw a great line. It says, I think Stephen Colbert said, he goes, "Oh, this lockdown has given me all the time in the world to clean my attic." He goes, "I haven't cleaned it yet, but I have time for it." And I think that's, for most of us, that's kind of the situation where we have actually time for these things. It's how do you make it a priority? And you can kind of we've done a few things from our kind of corporate or other world and brought them into our personal lives. So a couple of things I've been trying to do is really stick to some kind of routine. And you think of Barney, this is why we had a Nityanem, this is why we had Atmirada, this is why, at least if I was following the Atmirada, at least I'm showering every day, right? And I'm waking up in the morning and I'm doing my, so making sure that I'm sticking to kind of personally my own routine and really getting, I'd say, quite adamant about it, even on weekends and weekdays, not taking a day off from it, because I'm realizing that if I don't get up at a decent time, don't, of course, shower and change, but also get in time for Simran, meditation, Nityanam, those things aren't going to happen. And then my day will get just like always, my day will get away from me. Usually it would have been travel, commuting, and meetings, but now it's Zoom calls, and they never end, and you never have time for them. So one thing we've started doing is with the routine is time boxing, and it's just the concept of, we all have our to-do list, and then we have our calendar, and our to-do list has things that could last for days, but our calendar only has 24 hours a day on it. So I've become quite pedantic about it. I'm putting almost everything in my calendar now, trying to make it work. So I have Simran, Nityanam, get the kids ready. I'm putting everything in my physical calendar, and I'm putting all my work things in there, but I'm putting my reading time in there too, so that I'm not saying I'll get to it. And things move around every day, and sometimes things aren't consistent. But putting something in your calendar, in your family calendar, it will make it a lot more likely it'll happen. Or if nothing, it'll make it very inconvenient for you to then actually have to move things on your calendar when things aren't getting done. The other thing we're trying to do as a family, is make. We've always had a good Guru Sahib Swaroop in our home, and it's we've left with all our travel and work and life and stuff. We kind of left the seva of that to my parents, and so we Matatek spent some time there. But it was really mom and dad that were on the seva of Prakash and Sukhasan, and my mom actually unfortunately broke her ankle a few months ago. So it's been hard for her to do that. And then with us coming back after COVID, we kind of, let's make this ours. So our family, it's a small thing, but every morning, everyone has to get up, has to get ready, because we have to do Prakash and we have to do Japji Sahib together. And we can't go into Babaji room all unclean and disheveled. You gotta, it's the excuse for the kids to tie their patkas. It's the excuse for us to get ready and be ready to go. And it's been amazing. The kids are, memorizing their ardas. They're learning how to do Maryada Prakash and Sukhasan in the evenings. They're learning their Soila Sabda Park now. And all things, I'll say, I think they would have gotten to learning if I can be a little bit, we were kind of, learning by osmosis and being with us, but now it's become a real active act of Sangat. And we're looking at it. It's our Sangat time now. As a family, we're sitting together in the evenings. We'll do some Kirtan or Simran. And those things kind of sort of happened otherwise, but they were never blocked off. And now we don't go to sleep or after dinner, before games time. After dinner, we go up, do Babaji time, and we do our, whatever Simran or Vadas, whatever we want to do that day, and we do Sukhasan, and then we're done. And then we can put on our pajamas and have game night or movie night or fun night afterwards. But we kind of say, you got to do what you have to do before you do what you want to do. And with the kids, it's instilling that discipline. And some days are better than others. Some days, the kids are not, like all of us. But we're trying to create the routine now that you gotta. It's like a workout. You just gotta go do it every day. And some days you'll be more into it than others. But if you stop doing it, then you're never going to be into it. So we try to do more of that. I think so. That structure is so important, because it's hard to will yourself to do anything every day. Like if every day you have to will yourself to go to the gym or will yourself to get to, then you're not going to do it for very long, because no one has that much willpower. So you kind of have to create the momentum that routines create, or almost they almost, in a way, they hack your laziness. It's almost like the hack they say for if you're a runner, get outside of the house before your brain wakes up. So like put your shoes by your bed, like sleep in your running clothes. So the alarm goes without even thinking. You just groggily put on your shoes and you walk outside. By the time you wake up, you're already outside, and you're like, oh, well, I might as well run. I'm already outside. So I think with things around the house, why don't you just do this in a way that you can, I think, be intentional about things. Because I think what this crisis is teaching me is that if you're passive about things, or you're just letting things be, they'll just be. So nothing will really change, nothing will really grow. It's like our garden. It's springtime now. Our garden is sitting there waiting to be tended to, and if I just let it be, it's just going to be the big area of weeds. But I need to now get my act together, right? Okay, let's make a trip to the garden centers. They finally opened up. Get the plants and things we need, the flowers we need, and let's put it in. And if we put in the effort now, we'll have a whole summer of enjoyment out of it. I'll still have to weed and tend to it, but there'll be something that comes out of it. And I think with our routines, that recognizing that if we put a little bit of structure and effort into it, that they'll pay dividends. Because just with our kids, every day we're trying to learn another 40 of Japji Sahib. If we do that in 38 days, the kids will have cleared the Japji Sahib, and they've already gone most of the way there. And now we're just edging up. But every day, if we add a little bit, we're going to be in this lifestyle for a while. Just imagine how we're going to come out of it if every day we're spending 10, 15, 20 minutes on something every day.
I want to rope in some SikhRI tools here, if I could, because you are an executive there, so you know this stuff. What could people my age, 30s, 20s, even kids, what do we have that could, just now you were mentioning, we have time now, and Gurdwara is not open. So what could we do Sundays? Are there any tools, webinars, courses, or something for different age groups that, maybe now we have this time we could sit down and learn from?
Yeah. So I think, when we go to the Gurdwara, it doesn't matter if you're 6 months old or 96 years old. Doesn't matter if your primary language is English or Punjabi or Hindi. It doesn't matter if you spent your entire life studying Guru Granth Sahib or you're even a non-Sikh. You walk into the Gurdwara during a Divan and you get the same experience. It's like the ultimate, in a way, broadcasting. Everyone gets to experience the exact same thing. So if it happens to be a Tardi, if it happens to be Kathavachik, if it happens to be Kirtani, you get what they serve. And if the Kathavachik's, on a roll and working his way through a certain Bani, you're going to get that. The Tardis are at a certain point of Sikh history, they're going to get that. And so it isn't very, it's not very user-centric, I'll say. And it's not in a way that it's not customized. It's not what I want at that moment in time. And I think what's happening now is through these online tools, there's a lot more segmentation going on. And I know at SikhRI, we spent a lot of time really understanding our markets. And at the end of the day, we could serve, we can do things for seniors, we can do things for people in Punjab, other parts of the world. And where we really focus is our energy is on young adults, teens, young adults, so I'll say kind of 16 to 35, 40, that age, and young parents that come out of it. Now that trickles over because some of that comes into, if you're, say, young parents, then there needs to be things for young children. And if you're producing things for young adults and for teenagers, kind of fall into that. But that's where we are, and that's really English programming is where we're spending our time. And we recognize that people need to experience Sikhi in different formats. So I can talk about the content in a second, but that's why we have this podcast we're doing right now. That's why we have webinars that are every week, in which the webinars are either content-based or they're discussion-based. That's why we also have the courses that are being announced. We have the Anand Sahib course that's been launched. We have courses that Jasleen Kaur are going to be doing that are specifically geared for teenagers. So there is a chance now. We're kind of jumping full in onto the Zoom bandwagon, and not just Zoom, but the platform of these online webinars. And for SikhRI, it's been amazing because we've kind of always been there. At one point, we were exclusively in person events. Our folks flying around the world to deliver in-session workshops and meetings. And then now we've we transitioned a few years ago. We really made the online component a pillar, and we said we want the online to be as important, if not bigger, than the in-person. And that investment is, we're lucky enough to pay off, because now we have the platform, we have the content, we have everything shaped in a way that we can migrate everything and put it online. And it's been great, because we'll pick a theme, and there'll be a big long blog post article on it. We'll produce some videos on it. We can do a webinar on it. And for people that want to go really deep, we can do a course on it. And so there's so much different content coming your way there that I think SikhRI is well positioned to do that. So now that's kind of the organizational side of things. I think personally speaking, you'll find there's more out there than you know what to do with, and that's part of the problem, right? I think people are kind of, where do I go? Where do I look? What do I do? And I think the piece here is, first of all, the overall goal needs to be for each one of us to develop our own personal heart and head relationship with Guru. So this isn't about getting behind SikhRI or following a particular favorite ragi or kathavachik or whatever is out there that you want to, or a school of thought or a jathebandi you want to attach yourselves to. Those are all vehicles, they're all mediums, they're all groups to help that. But our goal is to connect with the Guru. Our goal is to bring the divine into our lives, to connect with Eko and God. And our Sikhi can become a roadmap for that. So if we want to take time to go down, if that's where we want to go, then we need to be open to whatever else, whatever helps us on that journey. And to connect with our Guru is Guru Shabd. So I would say first and foremost, cultivating a relationship with Barney and the Guru Granth Sahib is the most important thing. And there's lots of ways to do that. For many of us, that journey, those of us that are English speaking, primarily, that journey started with the Sikhi to the max, the first translation, and at least saying, going from Gurbani being abacadabra, I say these things and good things happen to me, right? Kind of like how we teach our children, do a certain part before a test and Babaji will take care of you. We kind of moved from that. But the next level is what's actually being said. And these interpretations is what they are. We call them translations. That's the first level. At least you start getting the gist of what the words mean. But then you start realizing, well, who wrote that translation? And you realize, well, different people, and usually different men through history have written those. And then you say, oh, well, what was their angle? Because each of them came from a different school of thought, a different mindset, a different way of looking at it, a different lens. And you quickly say, well, those aren't translations. They're not one-to-one. They're actually interpretations. So if I'm reading other people's interpretations, maybe I need to go back and interpret for myself. And that's when things get really interesting. And I think that's where, for me, my relationship with Gurbani really took off, is when I was able to put Sikhi to the max to the side, put all the translations to the side, and start building my own vocabulary of Gurbani, starting to learn what each word meant. And then from each word, starting to piece together and say, what does each line mean? And then each shabd, and then starting to understand the Guru and the time period that they sung the shabd, and then double clicking and saying, what does that reference to Hindu mythology mean? Or what is that farming reference? Or whatever is that? And so you start really exploring and going deep into Barney, and then you start looking at the poetic side of things. And then when you listen to the shabd, all of a sudden the shabd, now you're not just listening to the shabd because it sounds nice. You listen to the shabd because the shabd itself is transformational. And if it's being sung in the rag it's supposed to be sung in, and then it's hitting your head and it's hitting your heart at the same time. And then certain times the shabd or the hukum of the day will come, and it's the right shabd for the right time at the right day. It reminds me of the hukum today. The date of our recording is a hukum from Bhagat Kabir, and it's the theme is around impermanence. And I really was thinking about that. I've been thinking about it as we get stuck in this Groundhog Day kind of life, where every day seems to be the same. But we have to recognize that everything is impermanent. This too shall pass. And Bhagat Kabir, in his very direct way of saying it, he goes, the place where we think that is most impermanent, that we think is most permanent, is actually our human bodies. And we spend so much time thinking our life is going to be, our life is the way it is, and it's going to continue like this. He goes, you have to recognize that this body, right now, everybody loves it. You love it. Your family loves it. The day you die, your family's going to want you out of the house. And then your body's going to be reduced to either ashes if you burn it, or food for insects if you bury it. He goes, why are you wasting your time? And the word he uses is, "Kai paye ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਫੁੱਲਿਆ. Like you're puffed up with pride as you go through your life, thinking that you're the center of the universe, that everything is about you, that the way you are, that you have control over how things are going to be. And I think what we have to recognize is that we had no control over when this situation started. We have no really control over how it's going to end, unless we're in the vaccine business directly. Things are going to kind of be done to us. But we have this time. And what are we going to do with this time that we have? Do we spend this time merely surviving? And for a lot of people, that's great. That's all they can do. If you're an essential worker, you're not looking to grow this turn. You're just trying to get through this period. If you're, you're financially stressed, or one of your members is sick, absolutely, then that's the focus, and that in itself is a huge win, of course. But for those that are comfortable and are only suffering right now is boredom, right? The only suffering we have is that I don't have anything to do, or my kids are driving me crazy. In that, let's find some purpose, find some intention. When I was stuck in Punjab, one of my dear friends said to me, Kulvir, he goes, I'll say it in Punjabi, he goes, ਪਿਛਲੇ 1-2 ਸਾਲ ਤੂੰ ਜਹਾਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਚ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਗੇੜੇ ਕੱਢਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਹੁਣ ਤੂੰ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਚ ਬੈਠਾ ਵਿਹੜੇ ਦੇ ਗੇੜੇ ਕੱਢ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਹੁਣ ਆਨੰਦ ਲੱਭ. Saying that you spend the last couple of hours flying in your airplanes, and not my airplanes, but flying around the world for work, and you got really used to that lifestyle and you really enjoyed that lifestyle. Because now you're stuck wandering, doing rounds of your backyard. Because maybe the challenge for you is to find the joy in that, to find the anand in that. And I think that's maybe for us as we go through and look at our lives now, is that maybe this isn't just something to get through, but maybe there's moments here of reflection, ponderance, going deeper within. We spend all of our times, all of us have spent way more time in our house than we ever have. I think if you added up the amount of time we spend in my life, it's probably years worth. Our houses are being worn out. We're spending so much time in them. But in Barney, God is several referrals of God, and the God that she referenced the most is the God, which is our body. And Bhagavad Kabir says, he goes, well, work on the body, but don't spend all your time working on the appearance of the body, because that's not going to go anywhere. Work on what the body was meant to do. And just like every house has a purpose, this house has a purpose. And that purpose is to go within and to connect. And so how do we use this time to connect with Barney, connect with Simran, connect with Vaheguru, and create that Sangat in our home, so that our kids are following that example too, or at least part of the journey, or we're seeing the divine in our children. Before this podcast, I had some, very curt, frustrated conversations with my sons about homework and what they were doing and not doing. And I certainly was the proud parenting moment, but probably one where I can go back and learn and say, how do I treat that with a little bit more grace, a little bit more love, and a little bit more patience, a little bit more kindness on myself, and try to cultivate those, because those are qualities of Vaheguru, and maybe those are qualities I need to try to bring more of into my life as well. And this is one grand experiment on how to do that.
It is one grand experiment. I think it's a wake-up call for every human being that's dealing with this, no matter what religion you are. You have so much time for yourself. You have so much time now, especially if you're single and you were dating, or you're at that stage where you want to meet people, and now you can't meet anybody. You can't really date somebody on Zoom that you never met before. It's all different. It's all weird. And so everyone's going through this, and now everyone has time. Some people might work out more. Some people are like, yeah, this gives me a chance to get healthy. And some people might want to know more about their culture, their religion, or, how to get more spiritual. So, it is like, I like previously talking to you about, this is a good time to start working on your core. Just like you said too in the beginning, like, shower every day, you have like this calendar and you want to get things done.
I can't believe that's a high watermark.
And I know.
Every day.
Yeah, yeah. My wife would like that if I do that every day too.
Starting point.
But so everyone wants to work on themselves now, and they have time to work on themselves. How do you think, give an example or two, maybe else, how you're working on yourself, and maybe even like the kids. There's no Punjabi school for the kids, that they look forward to every Sunday. How do you get your kids to still do that? How do you get your kids? Yeah. Are they interested in it? That's easy then. But how about if they're not interested in it? How about if they're like, I just want to play video games, or I want to go outside play basketball? And also when we wrap this up now, because we're getting a little overtime, I want to maybe the Sikh community moving forward, because now a lot of uh, delegation was on the Gyanis in Gurdwara.
Yep.
Yeah, das kar duga sade vaste or whatever. Now you got to do all this yourself. So I think it's a great wake up call for us. So what do you think of these challenges?
I think I can share the example of what our local Sangat has done here. So I'm in Brampton, Mississauga, and my kids have been going. We've all been part of the Gurmat school at the affectionately the Dunwin Gurdwara, the Dunwin Road Gurdwara. That's there. And that Gurdwara, the school has really been left to our generation to run. So there isn't a retired principal from India running it. It's our generation, mostly parents, teaching there. And not just programs for kids, but actually classes for parents or discussions. So one of my great joys has been the Gurbani discussion that the parents do. While the kids are in their sessions, the parents go away, and we spent a year and a half working our way through Japji Sahib. It was just so rewarding. And we had somebody who was a facilitator, but by no means did he call himself an expert. He was just somebody who did a little bit of homework to help moderate the class. Now, and that was such a great forum. We built such a great community, like Sunday schools or Gurmat schools, the moms and the dads get together and the kids know each other, and it's a great vibe. Now in the online world, they've really embraced Zoom, and that's been I think a fantastic experience where every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, we have a virtual divan with the kids, and we bring and we do collectively things, and then after that, every kid goes to their individual Punjabi class, which is a breakout. And their teachers work with them, and it's groups of 8 to 10 students, and the teachers were just volunteer parents going through the curriculum and making that work. Now, the joy of this, and I think this is where it is that we have kids from Edmonton who know family friends whose kids are now part of. They came in, and maybe they're not part of the Punjabi class, but they're partaking in the Divan. We've been able to bring in guest speakers. Inikor is going to be a part of it as well from SikhRI, and so now that everything's virtual. Everything can be virtual. So I think this opens up huge doors for Sikh Sangat, for Sikh education. Is where's the first Zoom Gurmat school, right? This one that we're doing right now. I'm kind of poking and prodding the organizers, and they're getting mad at me because they're like, it's hard enough getting this up and running, but because they were focused on getting our kids in Mississauga, Brampton on. But in the future, there's no restriction now of learning entirely online Sunday school, Gurmat school programs, right? So SikhRI, I'm not advocating this is where SikhRI is going, but there's the things that our parents that our Gurmat schools doing, all that could be online. And I think this online learning, online polling of content and connection is going to become more important. And I always thought this with our kids. Our kids have access to every piece of information, every skill set, everything they want to learn, they can learn online. It's like the Matrix. They can put the disc in and become an expert in anything they want. So when that's there, our job becomes less about teaching them, but more about planting the seed of curiosity, inquisitiveness, inspiration, motivation, so that they want to learn. And that's the struggle I think most of us have, is that we want our kids to go on Khan Academy, they want to go on SikhRI, they want to go on all these other learning sites, but they'd rather play video games, right? So the whole world is there. I look at my phone, the most complex piece of processing technology ever invented, and I use it to play, Candy Crush, right? Like it's like, so in this world now, I think that's the challenge for us, and that's where Sangat comes in. And I think this is why the two things go hand in hand. Is as you develop your journey with the Guru, you find Sangat to help nudge you along, and the peer pressure of Sangat, the encouragement of Sangat, is really the tool that we have to put us in the mindset and space to want to bring more Guru into our lives, to see people that are slightly ahead of us that can pull us along, and people that are maybe not as developed or just becoming into it that we can give a nudge to and give some guidance to as well. And I think that's the journey, that's the challenge, I think, for Sikhs coming out of COVID-19, is that how do we, as always, as we've done time and time again, how are we going to reinterpret our Sikh institutions for the need that's ahead of us? So institutions of Pangat, of Sangat, of Langar, of Divans, of educating our own, of getting away from like you said, the Granthis and the Katavajiks and the Avdasiyas, where we'd almost been outsourcing part of our faith and practice to others. How do we bring that in-house? Just like other supply chains are insourcing everything now. Vertical integration, right? They want to go back to the source themselves. How do we vertically integrate that we're the ones that are doing our own Taj parts? We're the ones that are doing our own Avdasis. We're the ones doing our Nithanim. This frustrating one has been, we're all learning to become teachers. And frankly, had not spent a lot of time on core teaching my own children because there are schools to do that. Now, in the absence of that, where the school's almost in the background and I'm in the foreground, I'm having to learn that. And I think with our SikhRI too, maybe that's where we need to think about it, is how do we take it into our own hands? And the Guru's Kirpa is always there, as we learn over and over again. The Guru's Kirpa is there on anybody who wants it, but how do you put yourself in a position where the Guru's Kirpa comes into your life? And I think the tools that we have during this day can help us do that in a way we would have never otherwise done. So I think the last thing I'll say is that I saw this question and it really struck me, is that how do you want to remember your time during COVID-19? And how do you want others to remember what you did? So, yes, you got to take care of your family, you can take care of your own, but beyond that, is that all you're going to say? Are you going to say that, you look back at COVID and you say, oh, I just survived it? Or you look back and you say, out of COVID, you know what? Yeah, it was a tough time for the world and everything. I'm not going to minimize any of that. But you know what? I took the time to go in, to go deeper, to build my core, like you said, build the foundations. And I'm much more connected to my community, much more connected to my guru. And I have some baseline practices now that I go back out into the world again, I can do things. So the Sikh revolution has always been about transforming yourself before you can transform the world. So I think this is maybe the time to work on that internal transformation.
Kulvir, man, great talking to you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I think that was some great final thoughts. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more of these since we're all at home. So thank you very much, man. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
You are listening to SikhCast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.